All right, so I'm thrilled to have a longtime client and a really, truly old friend, Julie Rapensky from MedBest in Florida. Julie, you and I met, I don't know, 2008, 2009 is I think when we started working together.
Probably.
And you were pretty successful. You were a successful firm when we met. You had, if I remember, 4 or 5 people, probably around $1 million in revenue. And the reason I'm recording this interview and the reason she's not available live at the event is it's Wednesday and she's got to play pickleball. And her firm is running at its probably highest level ever without her there, with her being a couple states away, as a matter of fact. So,
Right.
Julie, thanks for investing your time and taking it away from this tremendous sport you've discovered in the last couple of years to share some thoughts. And really what I want you to do is, because I think a lot of people here today are in that challenge of how do I go from where I'm at, where the billings are dependent upon me, to building a firm that can run without me. And that was a multi-year journey for you. But if you could give some of the highlights on what people, from your perspective, what you did and some tips for people to do that.
Okay, great. First, I started by myself in 2001 by the poolside. I knew that I didn't want to be a nursing home administrator anymore. So I decided, my husband at the time had said, yeah, I'll support you. You quit your job. So I did, and was literally recruiting, taught myself how to recruit, and just started delegating things that I hated, like billing, collecting names, research. So in the very beginning, started delegating little things, anything that I hated. When I met you, Mike, I think I had maybe four people, maybe five on staff. And we weren't doing metrics. And the thought of doing metrics, if you remember, I fought and fought, did not want to do it. And you had talked me into it. And so thank God, because it rules our company now, right? Everybody has a pathway to how they can become a big biller. They have an exact path, and it really does work. Then next, I remember I've been with you along the years. One of the things you said is, okay, you got to get to an office, or how are you going to grow your company? Because we're all spread out. And so we actually did get to an office. I purchased a building, which was a great thing. And then we started to really grow. And as time went on, there were a lot of things I didn't like, right? I didn't like training. I didn't like running the office. I didn't like ordering supplies. So I would slowly just delegate everything that made me miserable. The one thing that I loved was recruiting. So I hung on to that, and I was the big biller for many years, loved recruiting. And then I rejoined your group of board members. And I remember being exhausted all the time and watching all of them, like going on all these wonderful trips. And I got up there and I was wanting to retire. I don't know, maybe this was 5 years ago.
All right.
And yeah, something about and I was wanting to retire. And I remember their suggestion to me was to get two phones, a personal phone and a work phone, so I could shut down work. I never did that because I have a hard enough time keeping one phone. But what I did do is, when COVID hit, I had saved enough money at that point where it was just, pardon my language, F it. I am not going to recruit anymore. I want to have a life. I'm sitting at home. Everybody's at home because we weren't going to the office. So nobody knows what I'm doing anyway. So I'm going to stop recruiting. So that year I stopped recruiting and my life changed. It really did. It was just wonderful. I feel at 60 now, I've got the best life I've ever had. And a big part of that is because I've got great cash flow. I got great team members. And I have a lot of freedom. I played 4 hours of pickleball yesterday, 6 hours the other day. Some days I work more than others. If it's raining, I'll catch up on all my work. But what I did, I delegated, right? So I found people in the organization that were eager to get into management. Not everybody is, but there are a few people that were. One person leads my interim team. She's been with me for many years. She doesn't want my input at all. And so I'm very happy not to, within reason, as long as things are going smoothly, then I leave her alone. And then I've got a person that really started with me from college, who was a research type of person. And I've just been really watching her grow. And she's now head of HR, manages the office, manages research, and is my right-hand person. Is she typically the leader that you'd go out and see that could lead a whole company? No, but she's a great like office manager type person. And then I have another person who's been with me for many years, also since high school. She is now over the perm. She's still a biller, not a big biller, but she helps train new recruiters, and she also helps with policies, procedures. Again, not the typical strong leader type, but really she has a cool head. She's a methodical thinker, and she's a good match with me. So those three people have really helped. In the last few years, we've even brought on more people to help train, and our training has gotten so much better. I have found leading training up to one person who is still billing is exhausting. It takes away too much. So now I have two other account managers who were not really hungry to be leaders. They were just hungry to have sourcers so they could have a life as well. So now I have three people training, and one of them happens to be my biggest biller. And she also was a teacher making $35,000 a year. Now she makes $275,000 a year. She travels the world in a van, and she helps train my people. And three of my newest billers are on a track. One's at 275, one's at 225, and one's at 250. And these are guys that have been with a year, and one guy 6 months. So all that has just made my life wonderful. And why would I quit? Now I've dreamed of retiring and selling for probably 15 years of the business that I've
Every time we get together, Julie.
I know. And it's always in my mind, what would it take to, and really we all had to sit and think about it. What would it take to where you felt like you never wanted to quit your job? What would it have to look like? I am living it, right? I went to Belize a couple weeks ago. I'm going to France in 3 weeks, and I'm going to Africa in August. Now, the challenges are if sometimes your staff gets a little jealous, right? And sometimes I'm not as dialed in as I need to be. So you just have to be aware of that. And you have to have team members that'll tell you, hey, this is what they're saying. You're becoming a professional pickleball player when you get to run the company kind of thing. So when I hear things like that, I really dial in. And I'm going to St. Pete. I'm going to my office next week, right? And I'm going to meet with the whole team. I'm going to conference at the end of the month, and they have a pickleball tournament. But anyway, I'm going to a conference. I'm taking some people under my wing. So you just have to dial in when you hear it in their voices, and when you have people telling you, hey, we need you, boss. So that's when you dial in.
So there's so much that I actually thought of 6 questions to ask you. We could take it an hour, and I don't want to do that. One of the couple of key areas, that pivot points, when you went from that moment of frustration when you said, F it, I'm not going to recruit anymore. How did you transition your desk to your team or your clients and your recruiting?
I always worked my desk with people because I didn't want to be a full cycle recruiter. And how can you do that and grow a company? You can't. So just the people who had the talents, whenever we get a call, I would act like I was still on the search, and I would still take calls. But it was like over a year that I transitioned my clients, and I once in a while have people call still, but then I get them on the phone and I say, hey, the whole team's going to work this search. And then I tell my recruiters, hey, I don't want to do anything on this search. So you guys get all 4 quadrants. I'm just going to be there when the client needs me.
And when she says all 4 quadrants, it's a way to split the fee.
Yeah.
Dion, one of our coaches that you guys have met, came up with that 4 quadrant model, and you get a percentage of each. If you get the opening, if you work the opening, if you help close the deal, each one of them has a 25% of the fee responsibility. So
and
I don't
I'm
want to get into
you that just briefly. Yeah. Our team used to fight about who's this, who's that. No more fighting. That quadrant system is so fair and you get paid for the work that you do. I'll also give you an example. Like one of my recruiters is going out on maternity leave. And so she's got all these clients she wants to hang on to. Guess what? She gets to hang on to one quadrant and other people work all three. So she still gets something. So it's a great system. It's complicated, but it is well worth it.
Yeah, it's complicated, but it's also simple.
Yeah.
You can define you can define each one of the quadrants. Tracking it is a little challenging, which is why you don't do it. We have people that do that. And then,
but our turnover, Mike, is next to nothing. And remember, we used to say, you got to hire 3 to keep 1. You got to hire 5 to keep 1. I never liked that thought. And now we hire 1 to keep 1. That's part of the reason, the fairness, the sense of fairness.
That's huge. As an owner, I think sometimes we're like Solomon, where we have to split the baby, we just give a baby to each. And it might cost us a little more in the short term, and it might be a little unfair to you as the owner. But to your point, is your people are always going to say, you know what, Julie has her faults, Mike has his faults, but you know what, they're fair. If you can get them to say they're fair, it forgives a lot of other venial sins. The other thing you brought up, I wanted to ask a little bit more about was you said I liked how you said it, having one person who's still billing, doing all the training is exhausting. So if I heard you correctly, you have 3 people, all of them still billing, that play a role in training. How do you divide that up? Because I really like that, because it slices it down so the person doing the training is actually energized by the training versus it being like, it's just too much to be the trainer and a recruiter.
I have Melanie, who I pay a little bit to be in charge of training, but she's also in charge of policies, procedures. People go to her. She mentors people. She helps them to get contracts. So she gets paid. Then the other 2 just happened because we had hired all these people at once. I think one year we hired 4 perm recruiters at once. And I just said, hey, if you train this person, you get a sourcer underneath you. And it just works so much better. And you pair them up by personality. One of my recruiters is a strong, a hard-hitting, no nonsense person. So just happened we had another person like that and paired her with that. The 2 younger guys that are fresh out of college, we put with Mel and the teacher. So it was a personality matchup. And I hadn't paid them anything. The 2, I paid Mel all the time and not paid them anything. And this year I just decided to give them like a bonus. They're doing such a good job at training. I gave them a bonus it equaled out to $300 a month over 2 years. So they just each got a check for $7,500. So what's in it for them? What's in it for them, in addition to that, is now they have a sourcer and they can take vacation and they can work more jobs. So it's a win-win, I think.
Yeah, I think we can think all we want. It's in turnover and billings. It's showing up that it is.
Yeah,
so
right.
you and I can have opinions all day long and think we're doing something
Right.
perfect, and you're churning people. There's a problem there. You're doing remarkable. So from a standpoint of, because there's a lot of people here, and we always talk about continuing the journey with us. How did we help you get there? In just not in a minute or 2.
So much, Mike, from the beginning, from kind of saying, Julie, I used to get frustrated with me. You got to do the freaking metrics, right? So from the beginning of that to the mentoring of going into the office, of how the dynamics of building the team and realizing, hey, if I really want to grow this to something, and then just the coaching of watching the other board members have a life and then just finally saying, screw this. When I did this, I was turning 59 whenever COVID was, or 58. I was, how much more of my life I am taking the risk. And it was all those voices in the back of my head, your voice saying, what would it take for you to love your job? To where finally I was just, I don't care if I make a dime. I want to have a life. And I'm making more money than I ever dreamed. And the company's doing better now that I am not recruiting. I'm not the competition anymore. I'm helping them achieve their goals. So the way you helped was so many things, comp plans, marketing ideas, vendor ideas, I would not, Mike, and I'm not just saying this to make you feel good. I definitely would not be here without you.
I get, when you and I had a private conversation, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I was like teary when you were telling me this story. I'm just so freaking proud of you, Julie. You're like a sister from another mother.
Thank you. Yeah,
um,
it's great. And it's great to be able to give back, to help other people. It's a great life.
And what you've done is you're providing an amazing live and livelihood to a team of people in Central Florida.
Yeah,
I
it's
know
hard.
you've got pickleball tournaments and a
I
whole
do.
bunch of other priorities. And I've taken my allotted time. You've been tremendously helpful. What I wanted, because just to show people when you apply something over a period of years, your transformation, there was a few stages of it, right? You went from you and 4 people to building an operation that I think you 2.5x your revenue from there. And then that point where you got to in your life, which was kudos to stand in that kind of courage of I'm putting my chips in the table and I'm gonna come up with a process to give me a life back. But the beauty was, as we teach, you just lean on metrics. There's no mystery to it. Revenue is $1 million of revenue is a certain amount of interview per weeks as a company, and then you have somebody managing that now.
And you didn't ask, but I'll share. Our goal this year is 4 million, and I'm at a 25% profit margin. If I don't get to 4 million, if I get to 3.75 or whatever, who cares? If I really put the pedal to the metal, I'm sure I could grow this to a $10 million company, but who cares, right? It's not just about the money, it's about quality of life. And I'm there.
Thank you so much, Julie. Again, I am so proud of you. This is when I hear this, and I get a little burnt out sometimes in my job. We all do. It's like these stories are what's keeping me going. If we as a company can continue to transform lives like this, so that our clients have a life, right? That's part of it. Building a business that can run without you. And here's a perfect example. Thank you so much, Julie. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. Have a great day.
All right. Bye now.
Bye.